all you cinema buffs out there, I'm Dennis Stack, and I'm bringing you the first of my Stephen King reviews. Now, we're less than a month away from It. Both Nate and I are really looking forward to it. It's one of their favorite Stephen King books, and the new version looks scary as hell. So, I figured I'd take these next 4 weeks and talk about my three favorite and my least favorite movie based on a Stephen King work. And when I say movie based on a Stephen King work, that's exactly what I mean. Now, all four of my choices, I have not read the book or short story or novella that they are based on. I'm simply judging them as movies. And with these, I don't want to give away what my choices are. I kind of want to leave a little bit of mystery. I'm not going to put anything in the descriptions, but I will leave clues in the thumbnail and on our Facebook page and Twitter the weeks leading up to the review. And this week's clue was roll. A roll. As in a dinner roll. A roll of coins. Maybe roll on two. Tom Hanks' heartbreaking words at the end of my third favorite Stephen King movie, The Green Mile. Now, I think my favorite thing about The Green Mile is the performances. There isn't a single bad performance in this entire movie. From, obviously Tom Hanks, probably the greatest living actor today, the lead role of Paul Edgecombe, all the way down to, Patricia Clarkson only has a couple scenes. She's great. Gary Sinise is in one scene, and he's like this kind of bigoted lawyer asshole, and he's great. So top to bottom, the acting in this movie is just top notch, and nobody's really a stereotype or archetype. And with good acting and good characters takes you through the journey. I think that's my biggest problem with movies overall today, that they don't make the lead character likable enough. I mean, you're supposed to go through this journey through their eyes, and instantly you sympathize with Tom Hanks's Paul Edgecombe because he is a good man who has a terrible job. He has to put men to their deaths. Now, in most cases, these men committed a crime that resulted in the death penalty. So in the end, they are getting what they deserve. But he tries to have these men, go be on death row and eventually be executed with dignity. He knows that, yes, these men are criminals. They've made mistakes. And who knows, maybe some of them are so violent that they just can't help themselves, or so deranged they can't help themselves. But at the end of the day, he understands they're human beings. And so we know that the human being in question that he really starts to doubt is John Coffey and the Oscar-nominated performance by Michael Clarke Duncan. I know that over the years, leading up to his death, Michael Clarke Duncan was kind of like a novelty actor, but this movie shows that this guy really had chops, and there was something special about him. And because of his size and appearance, yeah, he kind of got pigeonholed into some, kind of typical roles for a man of his size and stature. But overall, I think that he did a great performance and really helping you sympathize with John Coffey, his character. Not only is the acting in this movie great, just everything technically about it's great. It's beautifully shot, edited. The score by Thomas Newman is awesome. And this is a movie that takes you really through a wide range of emotions. At points in this movie, you feel angry, you feel joy, you feel a bit of redemption, and of course, you're sad and you're crying your eyes out at the end. I tried to make that promise this time watching it. This is like my seventh, maybe eighth time watching this movie. I love it. It's a lot, it's a great story, but I'm not going to cry at the end this time. Nope, I know what happens. I know how it all goes down, but I'm not going to cry at the end this time. Yeah, I didn't make it. And although this is a more supernatural, kind of spiritualistic Stephen King movie, where you're used to horror stories from him, there are kind of horror elements in this movie, but they're flipped. Where this big, hulking, menacing beast with some supernatural gift, he's actually the protagonist. He's the character who's pure of heart, truly one good character in this movie. But, he has all the characteristics of a beast. And then, meanwhile, the normal people like Percy, Wild Bill, even though he's not exactly normal, or just society as a whole, they're the real monsters here. They're the ones who can't look past appearances and, try to hear this man out and really find out if he's innocent, if he committed these crimes, and ultimately if he deserves to die for them. But people judge on appearances, and especially, the era and area that this movie takes place in. But I gotta say, my favorite thing about this movie is the philosophy left with you at the end. Now, I'll throw up a spoiler alert just in case you haven't seen this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, go ahead, watch it. It's incredible, top to bottom. Now, at the end of the movie, after the older Paul Edgecombe is telling this woman that he lives with in a senior community this great story, and he admits, he confesses that John Coffey gave a piece of himself to not only him, but to the little mouse through the movie Mr. Jinx, and they've been alive this whole time. They're both over 100 years old. So it has this great message of when you kill an innocent man, you know there's an innocent man that you are putting to death simply over duty, not because of your morals, not because you believe it's right. It's your job to put people to death. It's not your place to judge them because trial and jury of his peers already did that. And so his punishment for doing his duty and putting an innocent man to death is not death, it's life. And I think that's a great message about just kind of the death penalty in general, where it's you kill, your punishment is death. Well, how about you kill and your punishment is life? He's had to live with the fact that he killed John Coffey all those years ago, an innocent man, all this time. He's had to live with it. He's had to deal with the guilt. And he knows that not only is that a punishment within itself, just having to live with that guilt, but because he's lived for so long, he has to see all of his loved ones die. I mean, he really has no one left, and that's the ultimate punishment. And it's, it really makes you think, what would be worse? To die for something that you did wrong, or to live with something that you did wrong? And I think this movie's a great exploration of that.
Buffs.
Alright guys, so that's it for my number 3 favorite Stephen King movie, The Green Mile. I will give this a score on our standard 1 to 10 scale, and while it's not a perfect movie, I do think there are just some minor issues. I feel like some of the side characters, although their performances are great, I feel like they could have just been, elevated more in the story or omitted completely. It's like they had some stake in it, but just not quite enough. So I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Now once again, this is my 3rd favorite Stephen King movie, so you can expect higher scores moving forward. But I haven't seen every Stephen King movie, and so I'm sure there's worse ones than what I picked for my worst. I'm sure people will argue with my top 3, and I hope they do. I hope you guys have your own top 3, and leave it in the comments below.
Buffs.
That's it for my Green Mile review. What's your 3rd favorite Stephen King movie? Why don't you go ahead and leave a comment down below, and be sure to join me next week for my review of my number 2 favorite Stephen King movie, which is download progress. What could that possibly mean? Be sure to join me next week, and until then, don't you forget, there's no place like the theater.